This is the France 24 debate with Barack Obama about to speak in his renomination speech at the Democratic Convention in North Carolina. We're asking if he's still got it 4 years later. With us to talk about it, Forrest Alogna of the Democrats, Kate Kushner of the Republicans, both who work in the same law firm, Martin Michelot of the German Marshall Fund think tank, and Freddie Winkler of ad agency J. Walter Thompson. Welcome back to all of you. Kate Kushner, just one thing about it being 4 years on. I noticed the Republicans as well at their convention. They weren't in the speeches accusing Obama of being a Muslim or being born abroad. There wasn't any of this wacky stuff. They kept the message mostly about you must be disappointed.
I think that's right. I think they have sort of two messages. You know, one, this guy is not what he was cracked up to be. He's on the left wing of the Democratic Party. Two, you know, the economy is still terrible, and the solution is not, you know, so many government regulations that are, you know,
but they even eased off calling him a socialist, which they've done quite often in the past.
Well, look, is he a socialist? I don't know. You know, what does that mean? We know he's a liberal. We know he's taken us a big step towards socialized medicine. We know he's increased the size of the government and in its role in our economy. I think the real issue is jobs, you know, and the winning issue for the Republicans is the economy.
All right, we're going to talk about the economy. First, though, let's look at the numbers. According to the polls, Barack Obama and Mitt Romney in a dead heat when it comes to the popular vote. Most of the latest polls on that sense are within the margin of error. The electoral map skewed in favor of Obama. However, as you can see on that map, he's nowhere near the comfort zone. All the states you see in white there are toss-up states, and some of them are huge, including the likes of Florida. They could swing the other way. Martin Michelot, we didn't see a big bump for Romney after the Republican convention. Are you expecting it to be the same after the Democratic convention? There won't be this sudden boost in favor of the Democrats?
Unless there's an Eastwood moment, in which case the boost would be negative. I don't think there will be a boost. Obviously, Romney maybe gained 1 or 2 points for something that even was not amazing, a speech which was very run-of-the-mill for him. Barack Obama might actually differentiate himself from Romney. If you compare the two speeches, he might actually shine in a very positive light compared to Mitt Romney. So there might be some gain. I mean, Bill Clinton's speech yesterday and Michelle Obama's speech on Tuesday night were well noticed and well received by the pundits, and that might make a small difference in the numbers. But the conventions have become very run-of-the-mill. Nothing really happens anymore, and people are basically speaking to the base. So I really don't see anything special coming out of this, unless Obama has an Obama moment.
As we said at the outset, in Europe, everybody likes Obama. Even Nicolas Sarkozy wanted to have his picture taken with him, even though he's not from the same political family, allegedly. Why is it that it's such a close race?
It's a close race. First of all, I mean, it's actually amazing that the race is still this close. A president has never been reelected with such low popularity rates and such a high unemployment rate, which means that right now, Barack Obama should be lagging in the polls. The fact that he is still about even or on top of Mitt Romney in many of the swing states is actually a very good sign for Barack Obama. That means that the campaign that Mitt Romney is running so far is not the best. It's not on message, and it also says something about Mitt Romney and his running mate Paul Ryan that they might not exactly be on message. And the fact so far that they have not delved into the policy side of the campaign is actually quite worrisome, because I don't see Barack Obama ceding any ground during the debates.
Freddie Winkler, do you think that the Republicans, who usually are so good at strategy and communicating, and are they mishandling their communication in this campaign?
I think they did pretty well with Clint Eastwood, you know, and you know, it's not just an actor came to speak. It is, you know, I think everything was where it's really well done is saying, this man has done nothing where you expected him. He's done nothing in terms of, you know, the foreign policy, not enough with the economy. So he's just making nice speeches. So that's where they're going to try and go home versus the man who was in business and the man who's been growing jobs. So, you know, I think that that's probably been because that's what's felt in really profoundly in America. So that's quite a difficult one to hurt. And I think, you know, in fact, where he started, Obama should have been way up in the lead in the polls, especially after, you know, 2 terms of Bush. There should have been, and against Romney, who was a man that, you know, the overall voters didn't like. So the fact that Romney can get close to the 50 and that we can say that maybe he will get elected is already quite a big thing, I think.
And another question here. You were mentioning Barack Obama's job approval rating. It's hovering below the 50% mark. In France, we have a president who's only been in office for 4 months, and he's already down to 47%. We're used to politicians being unpopular. So what if the job approval rating's not very high?
No, because we're not used to a crisis like this. And I think, you know, people, it's very difficult for every single individual to understand what's really happening. You know, what happened with the banks, nobody really understands. It's so unbelievable that, you know, it's beyond us. So the size of the crisis means that anyone who's been in power, in fact, has had big issues. Most of them came in power after the crisis, and most of those governments changed. So, you know, getting re-elected in that environment is quite something.
And that was the point of Bill Clinton's message yesterday, is that Barack Obama inherited the mess. He's been trying to clean it up. If Mitt Romney gets elected, we're going to go back to the same policies of the Bush year. So right now we're in a situation which in some ways is similar to the situation George W. Bush faced in 2004. He had started a job. This job, albeit, was on foreign policy, but the American people gave him 4 more years to finish the job. And this is the message that Bill Clinton carried last night.
Forrest, Alanya, just want to talk about Barack Obama for a second, because there's been a lot of profiles of him leading up to this week. He's expected to make a rousing speech. He's a very good orator. But how does he do in terms of working the line, connecting with people on the campaign trail? He's been criticized as being too professorial, not being in a one-on-one situation enough able to connect with people.
Well, I mean, it's hard to compare oneself to Bill Clinton, who is just a magnificent communicator and an extraordinarily charismatic man. You know, I guess I feel like I don't decide who I'm going to vote for based on their charisma. I think it is, you know, I'll concede, I think it's a challenge for Obama. He is, as you say, an amazing speaker. You know, you could compare him to John F. Kennedy. But in terms of the personal warmth that he is able to sort of communicate, if you compare him to somebody like Bill Clinton, he's not in the same range. On the other hand, if you compare him to Mitt Romney, I think he's, you know, certainly a bit warmer and a bit more authentic in terms of how he comes across to people. So you know, yeah, he's not a Bill Clinton, but we only see a Bill Clinton once every 30. You know, we haven't seen somebody like him since Reagan. Whereas you know, if we're just going between Obama and Romney, it's a pretty easy call that Obama is a warmer, on a personal level kind of guy.
Kay Kushner, when it comes to Romney, do you wish he was a little bit less awkward in his demeanor?
Well, I think it'll, yeah, you know, look, it's good to be a people person if you're a politician. But I think it's also good to be a serious businessman if you're trying to convince people you're going to create jobs. I think that'll play to his advantage, because at some point, you know, the Obama, you know, glimmer, at some point you get used to it. You get sated by it, and I think we're approaching that point.
Right, we're getting used to the glimmer, you say. But what's interesting is, throughout this week, one of his biggest assets has been his wife, almost as if the media has rediscovered Michelle Obama. She addressed the convention on Tuesday.
And we must once again come together and stand together for the man we can trust to keep moving this great country forward. My husband.
And there you see Freddie Winkler, they even, you know, the White House put out images of Obama watching with his 2 daughters. It's as if Michelle Obama was new on the ticket.
Well, she's new because she's so loved. you know, and I think people really have a lot of respect for her and the role she's played. And I think what's very interesting, in fact, you know, when she started, the words that she used, saying, you know, how she loved him, and how when they started, they were young, they were in love, and they were broke. And though they were broke is the key word there. Because the one thing that, you know, I don't think Obama is much worse than Clinton. I think we'll actually remember him if he gets reelected as someone who was much better. Because we forget what happened to Clinton in, you know, half terms, and history says. So what he has, and what he did, this extraordinary show on American TV a few months back with Michelle, when they talked with Michelle Obama, when they talked about how they lived as students and how they'd only just repaid their loans. So the one thing he has that really connects to people is how he has gone through this nightmare of being poor and having to grow up. And that's the one thing that's you know, that really Americans dream of, and that will, I think, if you can reconnect with that, saying, yes, you're worse off, but I remember I've been there. I know how to get out of that because I've lived through these things, and the person in front of me hasn't. And that's actually probably Romney's biggest problem, which is why he's trying to hit more as to nice speech, but whatever you're doing, I'm the man who does. So that's where we're going to see the two levels of speeches being quite different. But I think, you know, we'll see Obama really wanting to connect back to the fact, I've been there, I've been broke, I've been someone who hasn't believed, you know, where that stage where you don't believe you can get out of it, and you're in debt up to here. I know what it feels like, and Mitt Romney can't quite say the same thing.
Martin Michelot, there was a moment last weekend where Obama's handlers seemed a bit awkward, and the Republicans seized on it with a very simple question, which was, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? How do you explain that they weren't prepared for that question, it seemed almost?
It's a question that seems so simple that you should have to lie about it. The only problem is the governor of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, who was actually becoming one of the frontrunners for 2016, but might not be anymore now, said, no, we're not better off, before saying something mean about the Bush administration. It's a question they should have been ready for.
Even his chief strategist, David Axelrod, gave this long-winded explanation.
Absolutely, because the hard cold fact is that they might not actually be better off 4 years ago. But the thing they will say is that, you know, well, give us 4 more years. We have the solutions in the 4 years to come. Especially if there is no divided government. That's another thing that's very important, is that there is also another election coming up. It's the election for the Congress, for the Senate and the House of Representatives. If Barack Obama wins and the Congress is with the Republicans, that might be hard for him, and they'll have to deal with that. And that's why this question was so important. The fact that Martin O'Malley fumbled it is representative of some sort of unease within the Democratic ranks.
All right, I'm going to put that question to both our panelists here, but before I do, I just want to say, if there's one word that's mattered most at both conventions, and we've said it already on this panel, it's the word jobs. The unemployment rate has steadied at 8.2%, which is lower than most European nations. Here in France, we're at 10.2, by the way, but unacceptable to a nation used to 4 or 5% jobless. There you see the rate, looking back at that chart, going back to 2007. Forrest Delanya, are we better off than we were 4 years ago?
I don't think so. I don't think we are, but I think it's the wrong question to be asking.
I asked the question.
No, that's fine, but I think it's the wrong question for somebody to ask themselves when they decide whether to vote or not for Barack Obama. You know, as the chart showed, in the real effects of the financial crisis that occurred, they didn't set in until after Barack Obama was elected. And you know, so the real question you should be asking is, did he do a good job with the cards he was dealt? Did he do a good job with the things that a president can actually have an impact on? Let's look at foreign policy, which is the place where a president has the most amount of discretion. He did a great job. Let's look at, you know, we could cite some examples. We're out of Afghanistan. The death of Osama bin Laden is a huge issue in the U.S., and I think it was a very successful operation that he was involved in. The health care reform that he passed was a legislative victory. It's not something that he did, but he certainly orchestrated it in terms of making it a priority and focusing the Congress on it. And it was really a huge victory that nobody has been able to accomplish until now. Even Bill Clinton wasn't able to accomplish it. So that was a great accomplishment. And then I think if you look at the different things he's accomplished in terms of gay rights, in terms of women's rights, in terms of the environment, in terms of investing in education, you know, I think it's a no-brainer not to vote for him again, based on the cards he was dealt, and not are we better off than we were 4 years ago.
And Kate Kushner, if I could turn the question around for you, 8.2 or 8.3% unemployed. We were asking earlier, why isn't Barack Obama doing better? We should be asking maybe, why isn't Mitt Romney doing better?
It's a good question. I think he had, you know, he got through a bruising primary. It was tough. And he stumbled straight from that into a blizzard of negative attack ads from the other side. I mean, which is, you know, par for the course. And I think we can expect to hear a lot more about his misdeeds as a private equity buyout artist. And I think we can expect to hear a lot more about Bush. I think the Democrats are going to continue to run against Bush as much as they can, because it worked for them last time. They think it's gonna work for them this time. But it doesn't really, obviously, it doesn't cut a lot of ice 4 years after the man left office. You know, Romney, I think, you know, you're right. He's not a glad hander. He's not the warmest person on the block. But I think as he presents his case, you know, he's got the primaries behind him. He's dealing with a candidate, an opponent who really is going to go very heavily negative. I think people will say, hey, this guy's not such a bad guy. You know, this guy, what he's saying makes a lot of sense.
All right, so we have a prediction there. It's going to be a negative campaign ad season going into November. Kate Kushner, I want to thank you. I want to thank as well Forrest Alanya, Martin Michelot, and Freddie Winkler for being with us here in the France 24 debate. Don't forget to join us. We'll have live coverage of Barack Obama's speech right here on France 24.